On now and going until January 12th, 2025, the WAG-Qaumajuq is presenting a fantastic exhibit that features the work of the Dakota, Anishinaabe, and Métis artist Lita Fontaine. Called Winyan, which is the Dakota word for woman, this vibrant and colorful exhibit explores the beauty of Indigenous femininity. The celebration of women in Fontaine's art is used as a form of resistance against assimilation and gender discriminatory policies experienced by Indigenous women. Through the mediums of collage, drawings, dresses, and large medallion-shaped creations, Lita Fontaine's art is both highly symbolic and thoroughly captivating. It celebrates her love for her sisters, matriarchs, Dakota culture, and the heartbeat of the earth. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about Lita Fontaine and the exhibit Winyan, I am joined by Marie-Anne Redhead, who is the Assistant Curator of Indigenous and Contemporary Art at the WAG-Qaumajuq. Hello, Marie-Anne.
Hello.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get to the exhibit, can you talk about Lita Fontaine? She is super fascinating. There's many parts to her character and her personality. Who is she? Can you tell us about her?
She would definitely describe herself first as a mother, as a sister, an auntie, a matriarch. I think she has just such a great energy. She's just like a very warm person. I think she's just a natural artist as well. There's just like, she has a gift, she was born with it, and she wanted to, refine it and cultivate, a practice that would be sort of like accepted by, the at the time, very sort of white, sort of, art scene that was going on at the time. She really wanted to be sort of like accepted into that world. So she did her, MFA and all that. So she does, though she is, like in technical terms, an artist, she's also, I think, just a natural artist as well. And she is such a, her life story is really interesting. I don't know if I want to, speak for her, but she's been through a lot. And I think that she's done a lot of work to, sort of cultivate this very, this warmth, like sort of like pink energy that she has about her, and this like spirit of like healing, she calls it, and peace and joy. So I think that's really important to her. She also used to be an activist, like, her art was very political, and she used to go out and protest and things like that. But she's just been more hanging out with her sister Lita Fontaine, who is an art educator, and
and she's like, her art is in exhibits around the world. You can see her art in murals. She worked as an artist in residence for the Seven Oaks School Division for more than 20 years, and she worked with elementary school age children. She's just a wonderful light and a wonderful human being, right?
Yeah. She's been so involved in the community here that she cares so much about the community. And I wanted this to be an opportunity for the community to show her how much they love her and appreciate everything that she's done too, because she is such a presence. Like, you can't really walk around Winnipeg without seeing a piece of her art somewhere. There's murals going up as we speak of her work. So she's definitely like a force.
As the curator for the exhibit, how did the exhibit come about? And can you talk about your own, like, when did you meet Lita Fontaine? Can you talk about that relationship a bit?
Yeah. So I was already familiar with Lita Fontaine before getting the position of assistant curator. And I thought that I just thought, for me, she's like a legend, an icon. So when I heard that she had created a new body of work, and she was looking for a place to exhibit it and had tried a few places, I reached out to her, and because at the time I was looking to, get some shows going, and I was thinking also about perceptions of art, because in some ways I do consider myself like an outsider to, again, the sort of dominant art world here in Winnipeg, but also, yeah. And I just wanted to focus more on like local artists, especially artists that are from this territory. And Lita's like definitely from this territory on both sides of her family. So that was really important to me. And so she kind of checked all those boxes. So I reached out to her and I said that I was interested in, doing a studio visit. That's usually how you get the ball rolling with this kind of thing if you are an artist that wants to have gallery representation. So I met with her and her late cat, Smudge. Smudge, he was the cutest. Oh, yeah, he was so sweet. And yeah, we would just like have coffee and talk, and she was just already so giving. She would always I'd always leave her place with something. Like she would just give me things all the time, which I loved, and it just felt like a very like organic like relationship, like like she was my auntie or something.
Yeah.
And then yes, I love the art too. I've mentioned before that I was very influenced by the sort of like revival of feminine aesthetics at the time. There's, the Barbie movie and like lots of pink. Pink was having its moment culturally. So I really wanted to lean into that. And I thought that, I just thought that it would be a different kind of message from what we have been getting, I think, when we think about Indigenous representation in pop culture, there's a certain type of story that's told, and I wanted to tell a new kind of story or a different kind of story.
And you mentioned the color pink, and from what I was reading about her, pink has some significance in the exhibit. Can you talk about that and how the gallery, how the WAG-Qaumajuq leaned into that a bit?
Yeah. So for Lita, colors are extremely, I think for every artist, colors are extremely important.
Right.
When I asked her because like for Indigenous people, we often have colors that are sort of like given to us, that are sort of our color that it has spiritual significance, basically.
Right.
And for Lita, that's all the colors. So she's a very colorful person. So for her, pink and I think like mauve are colors that are associated with healing and softness and and peace. And tranquility. I think that's what she was telling me about, her piece is why she was using so much pink. And
the walls of the exhibit are painted pink as well, right?
Yes. I love pink. Like pink is my favorite color. I know you can't tell because I'm always wearing all black, but I absolutely love pink. So I wanted to sort of, I don't know, maybe subvert expectations a little bit of what the white cube or like what a contemporary art exhibit will look like. I think we often think of white walls and like minimalism, and I wanted to do something more maximalist and something busier.
She talks about, I saw an interview that she did where she talks about creativity being medicine. As somebody who knows her, what do you understand that to mean? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, and Lita's pretty open about this. She went through a very difficult time in her life, and that's made her who she is now. So she has no regrets about that. She's totally at peace with that. But one thing that helped her get through that tough time is sitting down and creating something. When you sit down with materials, it's a time of contemplation and introspection and reflexivity. So you're really centering yourself, and we talk about the center a lot too, and it's very prominent in her work. And that's really just talking about your heart and talking about you as a person and taking care of your emotional, your spiritual, your mental, and your, the fourth one, there's four things. But yeah, you're taking care of all those parts of you. And I think that really went into her work. She was taking care of all of those parts of her, thinking about what needs do I need met physically, or what needs do I need met emotionally. And yeah, it's just like creating the art was a moment for her to be able to do that and really take care of herself.
Using art to celebrate women and using it as a way of resisting the patriarchy and assimilation, that's one of the purposes of the exhibit. We'll talk more in depth about the exhibit in a bit, but in broad strokes, how does she do that throughout the exhibit?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a bit of a tension that some might be able to pick up on with the exhibit, and I feel like there were a couple of motives. So I did want to bring her older work into the exhibit, and there is one collage that she created for the show Without Reservation in 2001 at the WAG. And in that show, she had a lot of collage that talked about sort of the gender discriminatory policies that were affecting Indigenous women's lives. So, we can talk about how colonialism affects Indigenous people's lives, but specifically colonialism also affects Indigenous women's lives in different ways. So, Bill C-31 and like missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit people, it's very much present in her work. And so it's really hard to not bring it up and talk about it. So I did want to include those earlier works because she was so influenced by, especially like the tribal feminism of the 1990s, 1880s, 1990s. And that's part of who she is, and that's part of her story, and that's the part of the narrative of her practice. And the drum, which we can talk about a little more too in a bit, also touches on that. That's an interesting story in itself.
My understanding is that the drum sort of serves as a center of the exhibit, and everything sort of comes out. Let's talk about the drum.
Yeah. Okay, so the drum, there's a few versions of it. The first version was also created for that 2001 exhibit Without Reservation, and that drum was surrounded by photographs of breasts, women's breasts. And at the time, it was speaking to the exclusion of women around the big drum. Women were not playing the drum, were not supposed to be around the drum, which like for Lita was very like ironic, and because the drum actually is represents the woman's heartbeat and the heartbeat of the earth. And so it was her way of taking back the drum and reminding her, everyone that the drum is actually for women. And in this very like polemical move, putting naked breasts. And of course, people were upset about it, but I think that's what art does often. And so when I approached her to develop this exhibition, I wanted to bring back the drum because I thought it is a seminal piece. And for our listeners, we're talking about a powwow drum. It's a large drum that sits in the middle of the room, right? Yes, it's a big drum. It's in the previous versions, there were feathers surrounding the drum and rocks as well, stones. This version is very pared down, I guess. It's there, we still have the heartbeat inside the drum. Lita also created the previous drums. She, with her own hands, she got the hype. This one was made for her. And I think that's like a really interesting thing because we often think of art objects as being in this sort of like stasis, and they can't change, and they don't change. We have to keep them the way they are. But I think that what Lita did really subverted that, and we can think about how art objects actually do change, and they can reflect, the conversations happening at the time. And so that's what she wanted to do. Instead of surrounding the drum with the breasts, she wanted to reflect how she is now. And she always says, I don't have like angst anymore. I don't have like political angst anymore.
So across from the drum, like very close to it, on one of the walls is a painting of the red dresses. What is the significance of that? And just my understanding is that the nearness of it to the drum does carry some significance, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She wanted to highlight who is the people that, we are worried about forgetting, or that we are forgetting.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that we're letting down. Indigenous women are still, being going missing and being murdered, and just to create like a sacred space for them around the drum. And I think there's still probably, cultural associations that the drum should be for the men, and that men are supposed to play it. So I just still think that there is an impact, like a deep impact in seeing these red dresses around the drum like this.
Yeah.
And then surrounded by the medicines as well. I almost feel like it's almost like it's these women that are there, and the medicines are there for them, and the drum is there for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's interesting because the first iteration of the drum was, just like one woman's breast, and I feel like now it's more for the community.
Right.
It's kind of decenters Lita as the artist and becomes about the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you talk? One of the things that makes up the exhibit is these handmade dresses that Fontaine created. Why the dress is so important to her? And from what I understand, they have associations with her childhood and attending powwows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So this was a bit of a complex thing for me to sort of negotiate as somebody who wants to create space for gender non-conforming folks. So I'm trying to keep in mind that dresses are not always for women, and like that we don't need to create this like essentialist association of dress and woman. It's for whoever feels good in a dress. And I think that's really what it is for Lita too. She, growing up, her mom taught her how to sew. Her brother taught her how to sew. I think it's just like this thing that you do with your mom and your grandmother and the people who teach you how to do these things. It's you're creating and you're thinking about them, and they're teaching you to do something that makes you feel good. Like for Lita, wearing a dress makes her feel good and makes her feel beautiful and empowered. Some Dakota women say that the dress is a teepee. It's something that protects you. And in Dakota culture, the women carry the teepee. So it's, again, there's that, that feminine association with the teepee and the dress. And that's why you see a lot of that silhouette in the show too, of the teepee the dress sort of resembling like a teepee. So
how many dresses are in the exhibit?
There are 3 dresses, like 3 like cloth dresses, and then there's the drawings. I don't know exactly how many. So many drawings.
Yeah, and for our listeners, one of the things I discovered is, and was going to get to it in a second, is there are these amazing drawings of dresses, and they're super ornate and super colorful, and they're symbolic. Can you talk about those paintings? Or
yeah. What I really like about those is that I see it as an influence from working with children for the past 20 plus years. She works with like these templates, she calls them. So she has the same sort of silhouette in each drawing, and then they're kind of structured around the center. She still has the breasts in there, so you'll notice in the drawings that There's usually like 2 flowers towards like on the chest area of the dress, and then there's these floral motifs, and she's really gesturing to her Métis heritage as well. You'll see a lot of like florals and Métis beadwork, and she's also referencing, the prairies. She loves the prairies. She grew up on the prairies. You'll see a lot of blue sky. You'll see a lot of clouds and stars, and her Dakota name is Stars Full of Emotion Woman. So stars are those polka dots you'll see in her work a lot, and those are referencing those stars and emotion and color, which are all tied together for her.
Yeah, I discovered the exhibit on the WAG's website, and one of the things that struck me immediately was the use of color. It is absolutely fantastic. In the exhibit, there are these also very large circular medallions that are on the wall. They're ornate and very colorful, and everything sort of radiates from the center on each one of them. How many of them are there in the exhibit? And when I was looking at them, there are certain elements that kept being used. The heart, the feather, floral patterns. Do you know the significance of that for Lita Fontaine? Like, what is the significance to those? And can you talk about those medallions a bit?
Yeah, for sure. If ever you're able to drop in on a tour with her, what I find so funny about her tours is that she always drops like this new like nugget of like wisdom and knowledge about her work. Each time, I'm always still learning about her work whenever I go on a tour with her. So please come to a tour with her if you can. We're doing one for Nuit Blanche together. So
fantastic.
So to your question, there are 8 medallions. The medallions are like these round. She calls them wheels as well. They look like these, like they're just wood panel, round wood panel pieces.
And they're quite large on the wall.
Yes. She was kind of like inspired, I guess, by Métis artist Christy Belcourt, who does these like pointillism, like florals, like these big tableaus of like florals, and with paint, like does polka dots. So she was inspired by that, and she also has always used found objects in her work. That's super important to her. So it could be something she finds at the dollar store, and she'll make it beautiful. And that's what I love so much about her and her work, is that she'll use anything if she finds it and if it speaks to her. So there's 4 on each wall, and I wanted to have 4 together because 4 is a significant number.
Why? Why is it significant?
It references the 4 parts of ourselves that I mentioned earlier: the physical, and the emotional and spiritual, and the one I keep forgetting, the mental, I guess. Wait, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical. Yeah, and it also references the 4 seasons, and the other ones I'm forgetting right now. There's a lot of 4 is a very significant number for her in all her cultures. So she did say that she wanted them grouped in 4. And there's the feathers, there's the bison skull, there's the what was the other things? The florals, of course.
And the hearts keep coming up as well, like actual heart figures in them. Yeah. So the center again is she always starts with the center and then goes outwards. And you really do see that when you look at you see her process when you look at her work. The feathers, I think, there's it's interesting because feathers, dream catchers, and things like that have become sort of these almost like pan-indigenous symbols. Like everyone just uses them to signify indigeneity. She wanted to reference her like Anishinaabe sides as well. So it's not just all her Dakota
sides or
Yeah.
symbols. It's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of other things too. So she's being specific about where things come from, but she's also using symbols that everyone associates with indigeneity to, I think, in a productive way, because so many of us that sometimes feel disconnected from our cultures lean on those symbols to feel sort of connected and feel more like we have community. And yeah, there's a way to signify who you are to the world. So yeah, I think I don't know about her own how she feels about, like feathers and why she includes so many feathers. I know that she's gifted feathers. Feathers are important. But yeah, this, bison skull is important because of Sundance. And Sundance actually is, I think, probably the ceremony that is the most referenced in that exhibit. And the reason for that is that she has been on this journey of healing, and she's been sundancing the last several years. So that has been really important. The bison is, of course, the center of the Sundance.
And does the fact that they're circles have any significance?
Yes, of course, yes. I think shapes in general are really important. Circles, yeah, they're just. I think that the symbolism, right, of a circle it can reference like so many different things that are important, like the drum. They kind of look like drum tops, right, too. Yeah. And then medallions are these things that people bead and often wear, and you gift them to each other, and they're a symbol of who you are. When you wear them, it's somebody thought of you and tried to represent you on a medallion. And she also calls them sacred hoops. I actually don't know too much about that and about what a sacred hoop means to her. It's not something I've chosen to highlight too much in the show, but I am interested in understanding that a little more too. Sort of like the idea of the sacred, and there's also the sort of like the spiral shape that you'll see a lot in her work, especially in the medallions. For me, I like thinking of like the cosmos and the stars, and I think that's important too, especially as a Dakota person. She's, the Dakota are the star people, so these like spirals, these formations of stars have always been so important to the Dakota. So that's what I see when I look at them, and that's why I love them so much. But I just really love that she just finds things she loves and that she thinks are pretty.
And turns them. And for our listeners, again, these medallions are really absolutely stunning. The exhibit looks so good. I'm totally going to go see it this weekend with my wife. As the curator, what do you hope patrons are going to take away from the exhibit?
I want people to bring their kids, and I just want people to take away the joy and the beauty of Indigenous women and just of life. That's what I hope for. Yeah, I just want people to enjoy being in the space. People have described it to me as like, it feels like warm. It feels like a warm place where I can just be, and it feels like a hug or something like that. So that's what I want for people. I just want people to enjoy it and just stand there and just be with themselves and be with each other. And
Fantastic. Marie-Anne, this has just been wonderful meeting you and talking about Lita Fontaine's, about her and her art. The Winyan exhibit is something really special. Thanks for taking the time to stop by and talk to me today. This has been really great.
Thank you.